is Natasha and I'm the Director of Education and Entrepreneurship for iLash Queen. Welcome to the iLash Queen Teeth Whitening Program training, where we're going to give a comprehensive review of all of the items and materials that are needed to perform a teeth whitening procedure safely. First, we're going to start with the machine and looking at the features of it. What's important to note is that it is in fact actually mobile, meaning it's on wheels, and it has a slim, tall design wherein you can easily put it in your back seat and take it on mobile jobs. It has a power cord in the back as well as the power button, which turns the machine on and off. And the machine comes with a remote control for powering the machine on and off. The machine automatically sets to 30 minutes, which is the initial interval for working on a teeth whitening client. It's important to note that you can do intervals of 30, 45, or 1 full hour, or even 15 minutes. We can adjust the time by simply using the remote control and going up and down as needed. Once the machine is actually on, we can also press the pause button to temporarily stop the machine from working. In terms of the teeth whitening environment, you want to provide an atmosphere that resonates cleanliness, sanitation, and good hygiene. You also want all of the items that you need for your teeth whitening procedure to be near you and in one organized place. So if you look at my work table right here, I have all the items that I'm going to need sitting on the table, including a step-by-step instruction guide that's included in your program. Notice that I'm wearing white, I'm clean, and that I have on a logo shirt. We generally recommend that you do the same, that you always present the services in a very professional manner under a brand or a company. The next thing I want to talk about is my actual physicality. You don't want to have hair everywhere, so try to keep a rubber band or something to keep your hair out of the way. The next really important tool is hand sanitizer. Again, you know, we're all wary about germs and cross-contamination, so you want to make sure that you are cleaning everything and that your client has a perception of cleanliness as well. So it's sometimes a good idea to even let the client see you use the hand sanitizer. That said, we also want to keep a wastebasket within reach, because as we use items that are disposable, we want to discard them immediately. We don't ever want to take anything out of the client's mouth and then throw it on the table. So now we're going to work on our actual client. So now we're going to go over the client kit contents. This is the box that comes with the program. So each student will receive 15 kits. And each kit contains everything that you will need. This is a bib that's used to protect the client's clothes. Or that way, either side it works. This is the main tool. It's the gel pen that contains the peroxide, which is the actual agent that bleaches the client's teeth. Lastly, we have the protective gel that is used at the gum line to protect the client's gum line. The system also comes with a tooth shade guide. This is used to give the client a comprehensive assessment of where they are on the tooth shade continuum. The system also includes an e-book, which is critical in helping the student figure out exactly how to navigate the implementation of the program, and just tips and tricks for launching a beauty business or a teeth whitening business successfully. Next, we have a full instructional guide along with a client waiver. The program includes a certificate of completion. The system also includes a pair of goggles to be used by the tech and the client during the teeth whitening process. So during the client consult process, you always want to do a comprehensive sort of pre-screening of the client, which just consists of a visual examination of their teeth. Remember, you're not a dentist, you're not a licensed hygienist, you're just sort of looking for anything that you think might be problematic in the teeth whitening process. A few things that I want to mention as really critical. Number one, veneers. If the client has on any type of veneers on any one tooth, the veneer is actually not going to be bleached in this process. So that's something that the client needs to be made aware of up front. The next thing is about plaque and any sort of patchiness on the client's tooth. If a client, and you'll see this on some clients, not our model today, they have sort of like lines on their teeth related to maybe plaque buildup or cavities or anything, the whitening gel is not going to be able to break that up and give the client a realistic desired result. So you need to be able to, at minimum, look at the client and just do a visual observation for anything that looks like maybe problematic. The teeth whitening program and kits will not work on people with yellow teeth or plaque and debris buildup, especially in the corners of their teeth. If a client's teeth come out patchy looking or uneven after the teeth whitening process, it's probably because the gel itself is not able to actually penetrate the tooth because there's such a buildup of decay, debris, and plaque. So remember, we're really trying to work with clients who come in with a healthy smile to make their smile prettier. We're not doing medical level dental services. Do you have sensitive teeth?
No, I've never experienced sensitive teeth. Like, do you mean like sensitive to like hot and cold?
Yeah, or any kind of trauma. Maybe you hit your tooth before and it's kind of sensitive after forever or anything?
No, I don't have sensitive teeth or gums, anything in that nature.
You have any implants in your mouth?
No, I don't.
Any veneers?
No, I don't.
Okay. Any dental problems like open cavities or open root canals?
No.
Okay. When was the last time you had a cleaning?
From my actual dentist?
Mm-hmm.
Like about 3 months ago.
Okay. Another thing that's important to note is that the client should have been to the dentist within the last 12 months. Just because you want to make sure that you're dealing with a client who is sound and healthy. So now we're going to go ahead and get started with the client protocol. And I think in any business dealing with customers and the general public, you always want to outline terms of engagement and make sure you and the client are on the same page. So the first step is to review and have the client sign the consent. What's important about the consent is that it outlines the client's expectations, what the process will be like, any concerns, the policy regarding veneers, the policies regarding liability, etc. So first we're going to go ahead and drape the client with the bib. The bib is paper on one side and plastic on the other. So you really want to put the plastic on the client's shirt side. So if any product was to spill or something, it would be protected from her actual clothing. Okay? Next, you want to go ahead and sanitize your hands in front of the client again. You pretty much can't sanitize enough. And then you want to apply gloves. Whenever you're going to be touching the client's mouth or going near it, you want to be wearing gloves. So the very first thing we're going to do is do an assessment with the client about where she is currently with her tooth shape. So basically, you have the client identify where she believes she may be on the continuum, and you match that up to her actual tooth color. Well, based on this, I would say she's maybe an S8. What's important to remember is that you want to go with the darkest tooth that the client has and use that darkest tooth as the barometer for where he or she is on the shade guide. So I would say, again, about a S10. So you always want your client to agree. So go ahead and hold that. You would agree? Okay. So then what you do is go ahead and record that shade. What's important to remember is that the program guarantees 3 to 5 shades. So you want the hard evidence of where you started and where you ended. So it's really important that you go through this process with the client and that you record the shade. Next, we're going to go ahead and apply the cheek retractor. The point of a cheek retractor is to retract the person's cheek so that the product could be applied to the actual teeth. So you have the client open up, and this is what's called client assisted. Basically, the client is doing this and you're kind of helping. So I hold the mirror while she actually places it in her own mouth. I'm just sort of helping. Okay, so as you can see, her cheeks are completely retracted and out of the way, and I have a very clear glimpse of her mouth, you know? This syringe contains our gel gum line protectant. Remove the little cap and apply the pointy head so that we can administer it, and you use it like you would use any other syringe. You just squeeze until the solution begins to come out. So you want to slowly apply this at the gum line, and you want it on the gum line, not the client's teeth, because if their teeth are covered, they're not going to be bleached or whitened. So you want to make sure the gum line is well covered, and if you mistakenly get some on an actual tooth, you go back and wipe it with the Q-tip. And so if you miss a spot, you just go back and retouch it. This is an important step because once the peroxide gel is applied, you don't want the client complaining that it's burning or irritating her gum. Realistically, only the front portion of her entire mouth will be bleached, but we do try to get on the sides as much as possible. So now we're going to go ahead and apply the LED light so that the gel can harden. Okay, so you always want this to be at the client's exact level so that the light is directly on her teeth. And then we have what's called a mouth sheath that's used to protect the client from any germs on the machine, and you just, replace it with every client. So you want maybe this gel to harden for about 5 to 15 minutes, just depending. So now that we have the gel fully applied, we're going to go ahead and let the LED light sit on the gel so that it can harden. So before we expose the client to the LED light, we're going to put on goggles for her, and you also want to protect your own eyes with goggles. You want this perfectly aligned to the client's mouth, and this protective mouth sheath is on there. You press the start button and the light is on. Now you may actually see almost kind of like a light smoke. That's just the heat from the lamp. It is going to actually be warm, and the client will be able to feel a level of warmth on her teeth. What I want you to notice here is that she's sort of drooling, which is why you need to be around to maintain the client and kind of watch how she's doing. Once this hardens, we'll ask her if she needs to spit or anything, if like there's been a saliva buildup in her mouth. So you want to just let this gel harden. This gel is going to get solid. It's going to be a concrete gel by the time this process is finished. The client at this phase may feel like a little tingling or burning, so you want to let her know that that's normal. You feel any tingling or nothing? Okay. So at this point, you've pretty much done the hardest part, because now that you have this gel on her and it's hardening, the next step is simply to apply the peroxide gel for the whitening, and then you're done. What I also want to point out is that it's very normal for the client to get antsy. So if you have Wi-Fi in your store or magazines or maybe a television, that helps the client kind of just take her mind off of sitting there for 30 minutes to an hour, you know? Also, the position over some time can be a little uncomfortable because they do need to be sitting upright. So kind of try to engage them and baby them a little bit so they don't feel too anxious. Because what you don't want to happen is that the person says, okay, that's enough, but then she's unhappy with the result. Another thing to point out about how you implement the program is that the format of the teeth whitening that you choose is up to you. Meaning you can offer an express service for 20 minutes, you can offer a 30-minute session, you can offer a full 60 minutes, you can do 2 intervals of 30, you could do 2 intervals of 15. It all comes down to what your capacity is, the setting that you're performing the services in, and exactly what you want to charge. Generally speaking, the longer the session, the more you can charge. However, for marketing purposes, it might be helpful to sell it as an express service for 30, 45 minutes. After the client undergoes an initial 15, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, if they would like to go for another 15 to 30 minutes, you can always extend that to them. So if they do 30 minutes and they want to see if they can go 1 to 2 shades lighter, you can do another 15 to 30 and it won't be an issue. This protectant gel is going to be on for the duration of the process and ultimately have to be sort of peeled off. Okay, so now I'm trying to test if this is hard or not. It is. Notice I'm wiping the gel and it's not moving. You need to spit? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead now with the gel pen. This is very straightforward. There's a brush on the pen. So you just twist until the gel comes out and you brush it directly onto her teeth. This is a better method than using a gel tray, because with the gel tray, there's still always that gap of where the peroxide gel can't penetrate. But with this brush being on the end of this pen, you pretty much can get every crevice pretty easily, and this also gives you greater control. So you can start anywhere, and all you're doing is brushing the solution onto her teeth. And then as you apply, you just twist it more. Be conservative in your twisting, you know, only twist out so much and then you can always come and twist more. You want to be able to control the amount of gel you're putting on her teeth. And what you need to remember is that this is peroxide. So if you get it in the wrong place, it could irritate and ultimately burn the client. So you want to be putting this directly onto her teeth only. You feel any tingling or burning? So to be honest, this pen is going to contain more solution than you actually need. So be very generous in the application. It's not like you're going to run out of product, and you want her teeth to be fully saturated. So what I'm going to do is replace her bib because this is really wet, and going into the next phase, which is going to be a 30-minute treatment, I don't want her to feel uncomfortable. One bib is included with your kit, but we also provide 10 additional bibs just for instances like this. On average, you generally don't need to change the bib, but you may have to every now and then, so it's not a big deal. Remember, everyone's mouth is a different size, and so sometimes if it's a really large retractor, the person tends to salivate more. You can also give the client a piece of paper towel to hold, and you can also sort of drape an additional paper towel over this. Okay. So we're going to start with an initial 30 minutes. Press start. So the machine should not be in the client's mouth. It should be positioned so that the light is directly on the client's teeth, but the machine itself should not be in her mouth. I would say about 1 inch away without touching. About 1 inch away, maybe even a ½ inch if you can get it that close. So you want to let the client sit. In that time, you can kind of go clean up your station, just organize things in preparation for her to be done with this phase. So remember, after this initial 30 minutes, if we want to do another 30 minutes, we can. We can do 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever she'd like. Okay, so as we can see, our client is salivating quite a bit, and we're down to 2 minutes. At the 1 minute mark, the machine is going to actually beep, which is your cue to kind of come over and attend to the client. Sometimes the client may have a saliva buildup, so you may have to kind of help them spit or something, but otherwise they should be okay. So you just heard the beep, we're down to 1 minute. When you remove everything from the client's mouth, you want to sit the cheek retractor on the counter and not throw it away. In the case that she wants to undergo another 15 to 30 minutes, we can use the same cheek retractor, but we would throw out the bib, of course. Once I remove the cheek retractor and the bib, the client goes to the restroom and manually removes the gel gum line protector. It's going to be solid hard, so she literally will have to pull it off. So now we're going to go ahead and remove everything from the client. The machine is now off. Remove the cheek retractor. You want to sit it on the counter in case you need to reuse it. Wipe. Now the client will go to the restroom and rinse her mouth.
Wow, amazing. My teeth look really bright.
Okay, so now we're gonna just go and assess where you were and where you are now. So you started at an S10 we had recorded. So go ahead and let me hold this mirror and let's try to see where you are now. I will put you maybe at the 6. Let's say here. So this is actually an S4. So this is why it's extremely important to record where the client started so you have tangible evidence as to how far she's lightened on the continuum. So we see that with this client, she went from an S10 down to an 8, 6, or 4, so that's 1, 2, 3 shades down. On the continuum, that would mean she went from here in S10, 1, 2, 3 shades down to an S4.
Now that I finished my teeth whitening session, what do I need to do to maintain my teeth?
Okay, actually I'm going to go ahead and give you this sheet with aftercare instructions. I'm going to go over it with you verbally, but I want you to take this home and also read it. So for the first 60 minutes, we only want you to drink water, okay?
Okay.
Also avoid any food for the first 60 minutes. Drink about maybe 2 glasses of water. Do not smoke, eat, or drink any staining foods for 24 to 48 hours. So what we mean by staining foods would be things like coffee, tea, any colas, red wine, dark curry, any like tomato-based sauces, okay? And then for maybe the next 3 to 6 days, as you can, as much as possible, avoid any acidic drinks or any foods with coloring still, the tomato sauces, the curries, all that kind of stuff. In terms of maintenance, you can also use baking soda or peroxide gel to just brush with. You can do it every night or 2-3 times a week. Will help maintain the whitening that you had done today.
Okay, so when can I come after today? When can I come back to get another treatment session?
You can come as often as once a month. You can also maintain with over-the-counter home-based aids that you can find in like a Walmart or a CVS, or you can come back into the store and undergo another 30 minutes to an hour for maintenance. Thank you so much for purchasing the iLash Queen Teeth Whitening Program. If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to reach out to us via phone calls or text at 786-520-5274. We're also online at www.ilashqueenstore.com. And please follow us on Instagram at iLashQueen, that's spelled I-Lash Queen, I-L-A-S-H, Queen, Q-U-E-E-N. We also have a page for our flagship store at the iLash Extension Palace, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube page for consistent updates and tutorials on various beauty topics.